San Leandro, a small suburban community town located in the East Bay Area of California. Today it occupies 79,452 people, 30,642 households, 19,825 families. The racial makeup of San Leandro is 51.29% white, 9.88% African American, 0.77% Native American, 22.96% Asian, 0.86% Pacific Islander, and 20% Hispanic. But it was a different story in 1970s.
San Leandro is a middle-income bedroom suburb. The 1960 census showed it was 99.99% white. The 1970 census showed the same thing. San Leandro has more than 68,000 residents. Only 84 are black. More than 15,000 homes are owned by whites. 15 are owned by blacks. San Leandro is adjacent to Oakland with a swelling black population.
From the 1970 census results, San Leandro was watched carefully. Then soon a documentary was filmed to investigate the discrimination of minorities in San Leandro, called The Suburban Wall.
I moved to San Leandro in 1967, and we moved here simply because we found a house that was cute and cozy and comfortable. Didn't do any research on the city, didn't really know much about it. However, when we did come here, there was a sign that said San Leandro, the friendly city. About 4 years later, I participated with a high school student, another high school student, and we did a documentary on San Leandro. And we put a beautiful white lily up by the sign that said San Leandro, the friendly city, because San Leandro, of all places, was known for its discriminatory process and practices. When I moved here, any person of any color, brown or darker hue, were discriminated against to a point of where it was unsafe to even drive into the city of San Leandro in the night. I, of course, did not experience any of that because, obviously, I was not of an ethnicity that would be discriminated against.
I mean, you know, if you look back at it, honestly, there's no question that it was a intentionally white community. It was all done on purpose, and it was just so it was a known fact. I remember coming back in San Leandro in 1980 and trying to establish some credit here with the name Rodriguez. Had a little problem with that. By no means do I feel that that it was a prejudice situation, but it was my name that caused some kind of an alarm with the bank that that my credit might not be good, and we had a little problem with that. And then finding out that the bank president found out that my father happened to be the fire chief of this city, and then it was okay. But if it was on my own, I would have had trouble getting a credit card back in 1980.
I first moved to San Leandro in 1956 when I was in 5th grade, and I came from South Sacramento, which was a very racially mixed area. So when I came to San Leandro, I kind of looked around and thought, where did everybody go? Because there weren't that many people of color around, and that seemed odd to me.
I can say that in San Leandro, when the report came out in 1969, that we were one of the most racist cities in the United States, I was extremely surprised. Not because I didn't believe that there is prejudice and racism, but because I believe that the city as a whole was very good to me and my family and to those of my friends, and I had friends of just about every race and color. So I can't really say that prejudice or racism was not here, but I can say that we were a good community.
And they are bound and determined that someone who happens to be poor is not going to live here, that someone who happens to be black will not live here, and someone who happens to be different in culture than they are will not live here.
Glennie Nosty is a housewife and mother of 3 young girls. She's chairman of the San Leandro Fair Housing Committee, an organization of very limited influence.
There are 50 people who are willing to be active and have their name and their face seen in doing something with fair housing, or in knowing that they feel that San Leandro is discriminating.
After the TV program of the Suburban Wall, I received multiple phone calls calling me names. We had a brick thrown through the window. My kids, I had 3 small kids, and my kids actually became fearful that someone could or would do something to them. It was a practice that is, in my opinion, hard to understand, because the first people who settled in San Leandro were immigrants who came here, and yet somehow it was determined somewhere in the history that this was to remain a, like I said, a lily white city.
Brian Copeland, going back to his production of Black Man in San Leandro, that was all true.
Well, it was very, very difficult. First of all, it's difficult to be different. And that's the major theme of the story, is that, and I think the thing that's really attracted people to it is that at some point in your life, I don't care who you are, you have been the only one. Whether you were the only black, the only white, the only woman, the only Catholic, the only Jew, the only Episcopalian. And I spent my entire life as the only one. And, just the isolation that comes from that, and the thinking there's something wrong with you because you're not like everybody else, it's difficult. And then there was the open hostility. Yeah, I grew up with grown-ups driving down the street yelling nigger out the car window, or yelling go back to Oakland. I'm 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. It was very, very hard. But by the same token, it wasn't as hard as it would have been had I grown up, like my grandmother grew up in Birmingham, Alabama in the 1920s and 30s. Of course there were places where it would have been worse or more difficult, but it was hard here. It was very, very hard.